Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Craig. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in and joining us as we talk about firearms policy, Second Amendment culture, politics, movies, you name it. We're talking about it right here on Coffee with Craig. Please make it a point to like this video so that your friends can join in the conversation as it's taking place. You guys may have noticed that we're doing something a little different. We're using a thing on Facebook called Premiere. Now, what Premiere allows us to do, it allows us to pre-record the video and play it at a specific time. Now, the benefit to that is it'll hopefully allow us to improve the quality of the videos that we're able to provide to you, yet still give you the experience of a live video feed at a specific time every day. So please be patient with us. You know, at least the video before last, few challenges, but hey, we're getting it all together, and we appreciate you guys being patient. The same exact thing is going to be coming to you guys at YouTube. Unfortunately, right now, YouTube, all we can do is upload the video. But we are going to be going ahead. It is going to be available to you real soon, and we'll be able to do the same thing right there with the folks at YouTube. Also coming, podcast. We're going to convert Coffee with Craig into a podcast. Should be available to you on Google Play as well as iTunes. Working on it. Hopefully it'll be up and running pretty soon. So stay tuned. I want to remind you guys also, please support our sponsors, Sacramento Black Rifle, Sparks Black Rifle, supporting you as you engage in your right to keep and bear arms. Please remember to support Black Rifle. Sparks Black Rifle, Sacramento Black Rifle. Finally, one last thing. Please remember to go to fpcgear.com. Every t-shirt that you buy there, the resources go to support the fight for our right to keep and bear arms. And in some cases, also our right to free speech, as is the case is with our code is information. Information is free speech. And free speech, well, code is free speech. And, well, free speech is freedom. So that's our code is freespeech.com t-shirt. You can find that there. You can also find another one we just came out with, Can't Stop the Signal. Check it out. Very cool t-shirt. You guys want to make sure you guys get it. You can find it at fpcgear.com. All right, let's get into today's topic. Interesting thing. So we all know that there's this narrative out there that self-defense or defense with the firearm or self-defense with a firearm, there's a narrative out there by the gun grabbers that story is in fact a myth. They want us to believe that there's no such thing as a good guy with a gun. The good guys with guns, no, that just doesn't happen. Good guys stopping bad guns with guns just doesn't happen. In fact, this is Shannon Watts, the founder of Moms Demand Action, and she's, here's a clip of her pretty much. This is from a couple of years ago, but she's pretty much been reciting this same exact mantra ever since she first came on the scene. Check it out.
Challenge you on something, Shannon. Wayne LaPierre, executive director of the NRA, after Sandy Hook, said the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And I think essentially when he says that he wants his wife to be able to carry, he wants her to be the good person with the gun. Is there an example in which in any of these school shootings or the mall shootings or these public facilities where that has been wrong, where this bad guy with a gun has been stopped in any other way by something other than, or a person other than, a law enforcement officer with a gun or him killing himself?
This has never happened. Data shows it doesn't happen. Data shows that actually a gun in the hands of a woman is more likely to be used against her. All
right, so now we all know that that's a bunch of hooey. We all know that she is spouting off information, because one of the things she's saying is that the data doesn't support the idea of a good guy with a gun, that the data just doesn't support it. Well, thanks to a guy who writes for AmmoLand, he wrote a piece that I came across last week that I wanted to kind of talk with you guys about. I want to talk about the numbers, where he got the numbers, because I did a coffee, I want to say about almost a year ago, maybe a little less than a year ago. It was on a Pew research study or a Pew poll that was done on guns and gun ownership and people's perspective when it came to firearms. And this was a point, and this gentleman made a point that I just flat out missed, right? And that had to do with defensive use of firearms. Now, one of the things that he points out is he notes that 1 in 6 gun owners have used a gun to defend themselves. Well, that's an interesting statistic. I mean, think about it. 1 in 6 gun owners. I mean, let's break that down. That's about, well, let's break those. What I want to do is I wanted to break these numbers down, because if it really is rare, I mean, if first of all, she says it doesn't happen. And here we've noted that in once again, what the left would consider to be a legitimate polling agency, a legitimate research company, has actually noted that 1 in 6 gun owners, all right, have used a firearm in defense of themselves. So I wanted to parse out some of these numbers for you. So let's start from the top. All right, so first of all, it notes that 30% of Americans are gun owners. All right, that was in the study. Now that breaks down to, if you look at all of the quote unquote adult Americans, it comes out to about 245 million. To about 245 million adult Americans, which means that 73.5 million are gun owners. 73.5 million gun owners. All right? Now, just hold that number right there. Let's go next on the math. So then if you break that down, if 17% of gun owners, right, that's about 1 in 6, that's what they're talking about 1 in 6, have used guns in self-defense. So what does that mean in real numbers? Well, in real numbers, that's about 12.5 million gun owners who have used a firearm in self-defense. 12.5 million at some point in their lives have used a firearm in self-defense. All right, now these are not my numbers. The polling number, the population numbers, those all came from the census, right? And the polling numbers, the percentages, those came from the Pew Study, right? So not my numbers. They're not the gun community's numbers. Though these are numbers that are put out there by people that anti-gunners supposedly trust, right? Right. Okay. So what does that mean? How big is that? Is that a lot of people? Is it really? I mean, is that really a whole lot of people? Well, let's break it down based on using their numbers. So what that means is, let's use the number that they like to use when they talk about gun deaths: 33,000 gun deaths per year, and in that they like to include suicide. So let's just give them their number. Let's throw it all in. So how many years would it take at 33,000 deaths per year? How many years, including suicide, how many years would it take in order to reach 12.5 million? 378 years. 378 years. So in other words, it would take basically, I don't know, well, almost 4 decades. I mean, not 4 decades, 4 centuries to reach the number. Based on the number, and once again, these are just people who've used it in defense of themselves. Now, one of the reasons why there is a difference, right? One of the reasons why there is a difference is because, see, they only count it if someone got shot, right? That they only count the defensive use of a firearm if someone got shot. They don't count when someone draws a firearm and the other person retreats, or when someone threatens with a fire. They don't count any of those. None of those are counted. All right, so let's just be clear about that. That's why that number is different. But let's see if we actually let's just use the crime numbers. Let's just use the crime statistics, right? So if we just use crime statistics, right, that's about 11,000 gun deaths per year. That's not including suicide. How long would it take? 1,136 years in order to reach 12.5 million. I'm just letting that sink in, just so that you guys can get a feel for what it is that we're talking about here, right? How long it's going to take for them to actually get this done. All right, but let's move on. Let's move on to the next one. So when you consider the fact that 23% of Americans, almost 1 in 4, have been threatened with a gun, right? Now, this is not including, one thing, we're not even talking about people who've been robbed. We're not talking about knife point. We're not talking about people who've been jumped or attacked with other things. We're talking about 1 in 4 have been, and Americans have been threatened with a firearm. I want you to think about that for a minute. So then the likelihood of you being able to, if you have a firearm, imagine the ability that you would then have to be able to defend yourself against that individual. And you know what? It doesn't matter if you are a guy like me, right? Or whether you're like my wife, who's rather petite. When you have a firearm, you have the ability to once again be able to defend yourself, regardless of your size. It is the great equalizer. It's one of the reasons why. This is one of the reasons why I like this shirt. Hold on, let me move my mic here real quick. You see that equality? The whole point behind a firearm, and the whole point of it is this, is that it doesn't matter how big you are, how small you are. When you have a firearm, you can take down the biggest guy, right? No matter how small you may be. It provides that level of equality that allows people to be able to defend themselves. You know, and once again, going back to Miss Shannon Watts. Miss Shannon Watts, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to tell you, but you just need to stop perpetuating the lie. Because every day in local news, we're reading stories about people who have used firearms to defend themselves at gas stations, in grocery stores, in parks, in parking lots, at school functions. I mean, we're reading time and time again about individuals who are using firearms to defend themselves or to defend others. And sadly, the national media doesn't talk anything about it. The national media doesn't point out any of it. This little aspect, this one aspect that was included in this Pew research study, I mean, nobody was talking about. I completely missed it. So I can only imagine if this is stuff that I'm looking for and I missed it. Mainstream media, they're looking for, what was funny was they wanted to note that, well, far more people have been, that last card that I showed you, they're like far more people have been confronted with a firearm than have used a firearm in order to defend themselves. That was because, they threw in the whole number of, well, only 7% of people have ever used a firearm to defend themselves in self-defense. But that in a number, once again, they included people who didn't own firearms. In large and most never owned firearms. But all of that aside, their thing was to say, well, more people have been threatened with guns than have been able to defend themselves with guns. And I keep thinking, if more of those people, if the 1 in 4 had actually had their firearm with them, I wonder how many fewer people would have been threatened with a firearm because they would have been able to defend themselves and make sure that individual, wound up either in jail or someplace else where they would likely deserve to be. One has to wonder. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. I thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please remember to like and share these videos and tell your friends about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.